Hi everyone, we're going to use the rotation of axes to transform equations. This video is an introduction. The first thing, in a rotation of axes, the origin remains fixed. So we have the origin is fixed here. And then the x and y axes are rotated through an angle to a new position. So we have x prime and y prime. Okay? Now, there's a point, R has the coordinate xy relative to the xy plane, while the same point, say P, and we're going to call this point P, has a point relative to the x prime, y prime plane. So we want to find the relationship between the x and the y. So first of all, what we're going to do for this P, remember this is R, and we've already studied polar coordinates, so that's your length here. It's your ray going up there. And I'm going to rewrite these two. This is R sine of alpha equals y. This is R cosine of alpha equals x. Well, we're going to let this be R prime now because we're talking about the new axis here. The x prime and the y prime axis. So we're just going to call this y prime, x prime. So therefore, x is going to equal R cosine of theta plus alpha, because you're adding the alpha, and I should probably call this alpha. So this is like your alpha, you're adding that. And your y is R sine of theta plus alpha. All right? So anyway, what we're going to do here is let x solve for x. Let me do this on the next slide. So what we're going to do is, we know that x equals R cosine of theta plus alpha. All right, now I have to use my sum formula or difference formulas for cosine. And remember, this is R times cosine of theta cosine of alpha minus sine of theta sine of alpha. Now I'm going to go ahead and distribute the R, and I get R cosine of theta cosine of alpha minus R sine of theta sine of alpha. All right, and then put my thetas in. So I know that R cosine of theta equals x prime. And we're going to go ahead and change these up. I'm going to put, I'm going to move these because of the way I set it up here, sorry. So basically, I'm multiplying R times cosine of alpha. I'll just rewrite it. So I'm going to rewrite this as cosine of alpha cosine of theta minus R sine of alpha sine of theta. So basically, we already know that this equals x prime cosine of theta, and this part equals y prime. So that equals your x. These are just rotation formulas we're coming up with. And the same thing's going to happen for your y. I'm going to go a little faster on this one. So y equals R sine of theta plus alpha. And so we get R, and we're using the sum difference again. So this is theta cosine of alpha plus cosine of theta sine of alpha. I'm going to go ahead and multiply through, and I'm going to put my, this is alpha. I'm going to put my alphas first, so it's R cosine of alpha sine of theta plus r times sine of alpha cosine of theta. And then using substitution, we're going to get y equals, this equals x prime sine of theta, and this equals y prime cosine of theta. So here are your two rotation formulas right here. Okay, these are the ones we're going to be using in the next videos. I do have one example real quick. I have, we want to express the equation xy equals 1 in terms of the new x prime, y prime coordinates by rotating the axis through a 45-degree angle. So the first thing we're going to do is let theta equal 45 degrees, and then we're going to use our rotation formulas. So basically we have x equals x prime cosine of 45 minus y prime sine of 45 degrees. Now, and we do the same thing for y. Well, let me just, y equals y prime sine of 45 degrees plus y prime cosine of 45 degrees. Now, simplifying this, I'm going to move it over here. We have x prime cosine of 45 is square root of 2 over 2 minus y prime square root of 2 over 2. And this one here will be the same thing, but it's going to have, it's supposed to be x. This is y. And this is x, sorry. All right, I have to wake up. Okay, so we get x square root of 2 over 2 plus, this is prime, and y prime square root of 2 over 2. Now, simplifying these two, we get square root of 2 over 2 x minus y, these are both prime, and so that's x, and y is square root of 2 over 2 x prime plus y prime. Now, we move on. I'm going to multiply these two because it's it says x times y equals 1. So here's my x. So I have square root of 2 over 2 x prime minus y prime times square root of 2 over 2 x prime plus y prime. All right? What I'm going to use here is the fact that this is a form of a minus b times a plus b, and we know this is a squared minus b squared. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is multiply these two, and when you multiply those two, you just get 1/2. And then when I take care of this part, it's just going to be x prime squared minus y prime squared equals 1. Or you can write it as x prime squared over 2 minus y prime squared over 2 equals 1. So this, just by looking at it, we know is a hyperbola. And I started to graph it over here. When you graph it, this point here would be, so this is the rotation of axis. Instead of being on the x and y here, we rotated it through 45 degrees. So this point here is, the length here is there, and you just draw it here. So it'd be something like this. It goes out this way instead of the other way. Okay? And that's all. We're going to do, that's just a little introduction. we're going to do some more of these kind of problems more in depth with graphing later on. Thank you and have a nice day. Bye-bye.